order. Thank you. And we'll start with communications. Chris, anything from Deep that we need to be aware of?
I don't believe so. It's been a quiet month.
That's wonderful. We like those. And Steve or Pete, is Pete on? I didn't see him. Steve, anything from
Yeah, I'm
aquaculture?
here.
You are. Anything from aquaculture that
No.
we need to know about?
Not directly to us, no, sir.
Okay. Bill, Health Department, anything that we need to know about with the Health Department?
Not right now. A couple of minor things. Our rain gauge was down for half of January. Well, actually most of January, really. I managed to get up there and I think I fixed it yesterday. So it's not showing up on the website, but we're just going to make sure it works through this rainstorm and then we'll put it back up. But I think I got it fixed.
Excellent.
So that's up and running. Just, I guess I was going to talk about resuming the water sampling, but that's under old business anyway. And the only other thing I guess was I did have a short meeting with a couple of folks from Deep about the heavy metals and what their thoughts are regarding it. And they were not particularly concerned, I guess, or they said they weren't particularly stressed over the levels that we were seeing, but I want to keep doing more samples as we kind of alluded to anyway, coming up in March.
Okay.
April, and kind of work on that through the summer.
Excellent.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I observed the Harbor Management Commission meeting last time. I think it was last week or the week before. And the chairman, John Romano, had requested that a copy of a PowerPoint on Clean Water Act compliance titled "A Public Concern" from Linnell Jones be sent to each of us. And so I just wondered if Mr. Mooney had received that and if we can all get a copy of that. I guess it's a PowerPoint presentation. She talks about MS4 permits and stuff like that.
Yeah, I can send it to you tomorrow morning. Sure.
Okay, moving on. Harbor Commission, John and Jeff, I know you've been working hard on drafting a letter because of DEEP's permitting process. Do you want to fill us in and we can go from there?
I'm gonna have Jeff, take over. He's composing a letter now at my request, pointing out the inequities within the deep application and how our agreed shellfish, water quality, harbor, we all participated. All the agreements that we had that they agreed to that we thought were put in place are not in the application. So he's drafting a letter that I'm requesting water quality, and then I'll request it again at shellfish, that we all the chairmen of the various groups sign the letter, and it would be sent to the mayor, Alicia King and Jessica Bonacek, and every member of the Common Council. And the gist of it is it'll point out all our inequities, but also requesting them to have the law department act as an intervener in this public process that's coming up.
Hey, John,
So,
I wanted to say one thing though.
Yeah.
On your minutes, when DEP here, you copy your minutes of the meeting down, don't you? You have a
Well, we have a recorder,
yeah.
a stenographer.
Yeah, well, that should have what they say in there, doesn't it? Or
It'll
no?
probably have some of it, the meetings that were recorded. If obviously it will add the flavor to the conversations and the deep negotiations. You
Right.
were a part of them. Steve was a part of them. Joe
Yeah.
was a part of them. And we spent and generally it was anywhere from 10 to 20 state people on the calls, and we agreed on certain things, as you well know, that have been left out of the permit.
I know.
So it's very troublesome, and also part of our agreement was because this document that they force fed into deep was, you know, to me, at least a story high of paper that we did not have the ability nor time without hiring consultants to go through. They agreed that they were from phase to phase to phase, that this would be an open document, if you recall, and we could make comment on every phase as we entered into that phase.
Yeah. It's just crazy. I mean, that's why when I was
And
saying.
Jeff, would you bring us up to speed on the rest of what we had discussed, please?
I think everyone is familiar with the status of the Walkbridge permit, but just maybe for the record of this meeting, I'll just mention a few things. That on November 15th of last year, the DEP issued a public notice of its intent to approve the permit for the Walkbridge replacement project. And the comment period was for that notice was up on December 25th, interestingly. But within that comment period, DEEP received 2 petitions for a public hearing, which DEEP is required to hold if they receive a petition of at least 25 signatures. So the first petition was submitted by a group, I believe it's the Manresa Neighborhood Coalition. It's a name, somewhat like that. I don't have it in front of me. And their interests are with respect to the impact that use of Manresa Island as a staging area for the bridge project may have on the surrounding neighborhoods. And then after that, we were not aware of that, but after that, the Harbor Commission and the Shellfish Commission submitted their own petition for a public hearing. And then the hearing was quickly, the process quickly started, actually before the public comment period was up. So the hearing, the first step, the hearing is it's not just a one-time thing where people go to a meeting, or in this case via the computer, and make comments, but there are a number of other meetings involved with it, with the hearing process. And the first meeting was what's called a status conference, and that was held on January 5th of this year, of course. And that involves setting the ground rules and the schedule for the actual hearing. And the representative of the Harbor Commission and the Shellfish Commission is John Pinto. And the Harbor Commission and the Shellfish Commission submitted a background paper explaining the roles and the responsibilities of the 2 commissions in the review of this project. And also, of course, how our involvement goes back 7 years, actually to January 4th or 5th of 2015. So the background report described our responsibilities and what our concerns are. And the concern, to say it quickly, is that the proposed terms and conditions in the draft permit, in the opinion of the Harbor Commission, are not sufficient for protecting the public interest in Norwalk Harbor. And we also made clear it's not the intent of the commission to oppose the bridge project or to delay it. But it's such a significant project affecting Norwalk, we felt that the public interest is best served by having the most opportunities for public comment and review as possible. And that's what's provided for in the public hearing. So at the status conference, they set several key dates, including next Wednesday, which I think is February 10th, as a site visit, which is for the purpose of the DEP hearing officer familiarizing herself with the site. The actual public comment hearing is February 20th.
Next Thursday, Jeff.
Next Thursday it is?
Yes.
Oh, okay, next Thursday is the 10th, right, 11th, right, next Thursday. The actual public comment hearing is February 23rd. And that will be via the same means as we're conducting this meeting now, but by the computer. The deadline for submitted written comments is February 28th. So the commission, so there's not much time. This is compressed, and the process is moving rapidly. So at its meeting last week, the Harbor Commission approved a motion maybe just for the record of this meeting, that the Harbor Management Commission has reviewed the proposed conditions included in the draft permit noticed by DEP for the Walkbridge project, and finds that those proposed conditions are insufficient for protecting the public interest in Norwalk Harbor and achieving project consistency with the Norwalk Harbor Management Plan. Specifically, the commission is concerned that the proposed conditions do not adequately address the commission's previously expressed concerns with regard to: 1, protecting water quality; 2, maintaining public navigation safety; 3, planning for bulkheading along the proposed Water Street Marine staging area; 4, ensuring future water-dependent uses, and those would be with respect to the properties that DOT would use for the bridge project, but would be available for redevelopment after the project; 5, establishing and maintaining coordination with the harbor master and local emergency services; 6, managing barge mooring locations; and 7, protecting the quality of life in shorefront residential areas adjoining Manresa Island. And that accordingly, the commission resolves to submit during the DEP public hearing process detailed recommendations for strengthening the proposed conditions for the purpose of protecting the public interest and achieving consistency with the harbor management plan. So in other words, we would again, it's not to oppose the project, but to try to influence the conditions in the permit to protect the resources and the conditions in Norwalk Harbor. And I might just say, as an example, and John mentioned this, there are no requirements in the draft conditions and terms and conditions for monitoring water quality during the work. And it was always our understanding that that would be included, and that was the reason for doing the baseline monitoring of baseline conditions prior to construction. So what we would do is we'd listen to the public hearing comments, and we would then we'd have a very short period of time afterwards to prepare to submit our recommendations for strengthening and improving the conditions. And what we were thinking about, this is to bring to the attention of the committee, is at this time we would transmit that motion along with the report that was submitted by the commission at the status conference, which has a more detailed explanation of our concerns with respect to the topics I just mentioned. And we would transmit that to the mayor and the common council members and other city officials. And we were hoping, or we were respectfully requesting, that letter be signed not just by the chairman of the Harbor Commission, but by the chairman of the Shellfish Commission and by the chairman of the Water Quality Committee. And in that letter, we would say that we're requesting your support and participation in the public hearing process, that we feel the conditions are inadequate, and we request your support for achieving strengthening of them, and transmit the motion that I just read, and also the background report of our involvement. So thank you for letting me go on about this, but the matter of fact is that we've worked on reviewing this project and trying to, again, not oppose it or delay it, but to ensure that it's done in a way that protects the public interest. And we've worked on this for 7 years. And we'd like to think that our recommendations will have weight, and we're going to make the argument that the Harbor Commission has a special standing in this public review process because of the existence of the Norwalk Harbor Management Plan, which includes a specific policy that work to repair and maintain and replace bridges over the Norwalk Harbor will be properly monitored during construction to avoid adverse impacts on water quality. So I guess we're asking if the committee would agree to support this effort of the Harbor Commission, and we'll bring this up to the Shellfish Commission at the next meeting as well. Thank you. Muted, Joe.
Thank you. What I would like to do is entertain a motion that we, as a committee, agree to sign on to this.
So
Do I-
moved.
That's a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, I guess the ayes carry it. So there you go, Jeff.
Thank you.
That was quick.
But it's not me, it's the Harbor Commission, it's everybody who
It's
cares about
everybody.
Norwalk Harbor. Yes.
Excellent. Okay, next, next on the agenda. Is planning and zoning, anything from that group? I don't think Michelle's on. That's no one. Okay, old business. Bill, we'll start with you. In your work with the area around Wilson Cove, in all the sampling that you did and all the dye testing that you did you end up with anything that would raise a red flag coming off of the homeowners association area?
No, all the dye testing was, didn't say anything, so no, there was no concerns there. Whatever's in the tidal pond may just be, naturally occurring, but you still want to do some more testing in the cove itself, and again, for some heavy metals, keep moving on that, just to see if we can get any kind of trend going, or just see what we can do about establishing something that we can go make a decision one way or the other on it.
Excellent. I think based on what we learned back in the early 90s, geese alone leave behind a half a pound of fecal material a day, minimal, up to over a pound. So the presence of geese and other waterfowl in that area could have easily escalated the bacteria content. And then with the coming of winter, many of them disappear. And especially if the harbor, that cove, I know can freeze over from time to time. And I have in all honesty, not visited it in the last 2 weeks, so I don't know if it's frozen over. The bacteria content should absolutely clear if it's caused by waterfowl completely. So let's pray for good continual results, and let's hope that the heavy metals were residual from days gone by, sadly enough.
Right.
Joe,
Yep,
yeah, being that this is a hot spot,
yep.
should we not, and again, I don't remember exactly what time of year that we actually, Dick Harris did some preliminary testing
It's
in a limited way. Should we not sporadically consider going back at more hot button type times? Like, I know because of the topography there, the way the elevations are, and the amount of drainage and roads that are in there, and also the septic systems being kind of like older, and this is not the only place where that could be something that we may want to look at. But when we've got the spring rains and the like, and I know that rain does impact the fields on septics, that we should relook at it, because we want to make sure that we're not impacting that environment in there,
well, absolutely.
or elsewhere. I mean, anywhere citywide.
Absolutely. And it's something, because of the shellfish beds, I'm sure Dick is going to try and keep his hand on that and he's going to try and keep up with it. And you know, it's just like every other place, just like the beaches. We have to keep up on it. I know, I have friends that were at Roten Point, and I know we had asked for the testing to take place there, and it did take place there, and we did on occasion get high counts. And you would wonder where it comes from, and it could just be the animal life in the area. And these are things that we just have to
That's
learn.
possible. I know we had a lot of issues at the beach until we found a broken pipe. And the
Yep.
issues went on for years. And then
Yep.
we found the broken pipe and it got fixed and it eliminated the issue in the closing of the beds. I mean, I would like to see us and the health department, if there's contamination going into just limited spots that they found so far, that we find out the root cause of that contamination as well on the other side of the road.
Yeah,
I mean, if there's leaching going underneath the road, or there's old drainage systems that are permeating, you know, don't take much with a lot of rains and high tide and full moon, Mars aligned with Venus and bad weather, northeast storms, to have issues and problems that we can hopefully nip in the bud and catch. I mean, as far as the septics are concerned, it may be just a matter of exercising good practices where the system is X amount of years old, that it gets out pumped more frequently. And I think Norwalk should have some kind of regulation to address pump outs as well. That's something else, but that may lead us towards that.
I think that would be a great idea. I know the Watershed Initiative years back tried to work on a formula as far as how many occupants of the house and how frequently they were around, as well as the size of the septic tank in order to take care of that. In reality, some of the older homes there should have all been upgraded, especially on the other side of Wilson Cove. And a lot of them I know did go to city sewage. On the other side of that, I can remember going by fishing off of the side around Bell Island and hearing toilets flush and seeing the discharge from the toilet coming out of the seawall back in the 70s. And you would hope that in this period of time, all of that would have been completely eradicated. But you never know what might be residual still in the ground. And then during certain storm conditions be released. So these are all issues that need to be looked into. But I'm on your side about the septic pumping every so many years. Any other comments under old
I
business?
mean, the health department, Bill, you guys have to take part of the lead on it.
Well, we'll take a look at it. There's a lot involved with that, trying to get people to pump out. And it's a lot of maintenance. So we'll have to take a look at it. I'll have to look and see what other communities are doing, how they're handling it.
Okay, well, we found on the Norwalk River there, Wilton was excited about trying to do it, but then realized, like Bill said, it's a little bit overwhelming as far as the paperwork and keeping track of who's doing what and when it's being done. And it almost requires, especially in a city this size, it would require almost a person just dedicated to that. But it is worth going after. And especially since the number of septic tanks in this town is going down, comparatively speaking, and more people are on city sewage. Anything else under old business?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yes, I have my hand raised. Thank you for all these comments. Very, very good. Number one, I consider the discussion about Wilson Cove and any of the adjacent properties as an opportunity for us to I'm hoping, and I'm writing up a proposal to create an opportunity for education of folks living in private homeowner associations and working with them, especially when they have septic systems. I mean, I used to live at Village Creek, and it's a very similar situation to Wilson Point. Many, many years ago, when I was president, before Louise, many years before, of the River Watershed Association, Norwalk River Watershed, we had put forth the potential for a septic system pump out ordinance. And that is something that we could discuss because, of course, you do need administration of it. I first always like to start with education. So at the very least, I think it would behoove us, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel, but there are lots of flyers free available that help homeowners discuss what not to put down the toilet, you know, how many times they should pump out. And I think this could be a nice opportunity for education and positive, proactive protection. Also, I think that the current situation with the one of the homeowners coming to us with a concern is just an opportunity to make sure that we are thorough in our review of such concerns and complaints. I think it's very important that all of us make sure we understand the laws in place related to what we call polluted runoff as well. And I, of course, think that the trolley road, I think it's called, and MLK definitely should be looked at because of their industrial past. So I'm very happy that the Wilson Point property owners looked there. Definitely we were looking there. And so that is a lot of opportunity. Lastly, other members that live, other entities that are around that Wilson Cove all should get an educational flyer, be they a marina or a house. Because there are things that people do, they don't mean to do it, but there are ways that all of us can impact. And we do have shellfish beds to the south, so that's very important. And I do think that it's very important that we are transparent and thorough. So I appreciate all of the comments that are included in this.
Can I add two seconds here?
Go
I
ahead.
just want to say that NRWA is rolling out a septic awareness campaign. We're starting in Ridgefield, but we have an AmeriCorps member who's been working on this project. It's going to have all kinds of aspects to it, but starting with a talk at the library and like a get pumped campaign. And so we're doing that as like a pilot, and then we want to bring it down to Wilton and Norwalk and the other towns. So we're putting something together that will be available for everybody to use. So stay tuned.
Great.
Thanks. That would be great to have out there. And especially if we find all the surrounding towns. It makes it very. Anything else? Excellent. Okay, under new business, Louise, you're on again.
So the good news is I did a little bit more of my homework on the green snow certification, and Norwalk has done it. Yay,
Yeah.
Norwalk. So our DPW has done it. And so has New Canaan and Ridgefield. And so Wilton is the town in our watershed that has not done that. And so I'm going to turn my focus to Wilton to try to get them to, to at least start that, do that certification program. So that's it for that update.
I think as we traveled around during the last 2 days, having had very little rain or runoff, most of us saw how bad the salt was on the road.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of unbelievable. I mean, the private property use is a huge problem. The green snow program that Mike Dietz is doing at UConn is focused on, talking to DPWs and municipal salt use. So I don't know how. I think the overuse is really done on private property. So I don't know, Chris, do you know any way that towns are addressing that?
Well, yeah, UConn, their program with Mike Dietz would probably be taking the lead in Connecticut on that. So the Green Snow Pro
Yeah.
program, which came out of New Hampshire, is what they're emulating. So
Yeah,
they're training operators and all that in municipals. But like you said, the private properties, they really don't have any controls and they need to make sure people are safe. So they put too much out. I see it all the time.
yeah, we're doing our leads, newsletter story on this and trying to do some education to just at least get people to understand that there are environmental consequences. So we have that planned for the spring.
It seems like the residential side of snow plowing and prepping for a storm has really gone to almost all salt.
What it has, right, Chris? We used to do sand and salt. Now it's all salt.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's because I snowplow as well, not as much commercially as I did in the past. I just do my own properties now. But my access to material is all pure salt. And we used to have a higher concentration of sand in a mix. That's what we used to use. And I didn't see that there were any issues or problems with it, especially for residential or small strip centers, or I used to even do the railroad station and the maritime center.
I mean, if you look at the Norwalk River or the Silvermine River, especially, the rocks that are sticking up out of the water are white, and
Yeah,
it's not
calcium.
frost, it's
calcium.
salt. Yeah, it's particularly bad for freshwater for mussels. I was reading, so.
And a lot of the plankton, the freshwater
And
plankton.
fish and everything.
Yeah, one thing that a lot of people do not realize is that salt infiltrates into the groundwater where it can cause problems with drinking water. There's an advisory for high blood pressure, but sometimes the highest concentrations of salt in our local water courses are in late summer when it's purely groundwater flow. It's even higher than it is in the winter when the snow melt occurs.
So it's staying in the soil and then making its way down to the groundwater. Is that?
Yeah, exactly.
I know when I did a tour of SNU, that was one of their big issues, that they can't get the salt out of the drinking water. So it's a huge problem. It's a problem for
Yeah. And
everybody.
there is an issue where sometimes the sodium ions, I will believe, will displace other metal ions on some of the cation exchange sites. So you get a flush of metals into the groundwater that are not
Oh, wow.
good for anybody.
So it seems like there needs to be more of a focus on business, or doesn't the New Hampshire program have some coverage for liability? I feel like
It
having
goes
Mike
both ways,
Deep come-
Louise. The National Transportation Safety Board has a bare pavement policy, and people expect bare pavement. So, when it comes down to public safety, it's a difficult thing to legislate, I guess.
Yeah, I'll try to get an update I'll just ask Mike Dees, is there anything else we could consider in Norwalk, since we've already done the green snow thing, and I'll come back to the group.
Okay, Louise, the other one,
Right.
you want to give them the good news about Eversource and spraying?
Oh, yeah, there was, we talked to Chris Torrey, our tree warden, about Eversource had given the DPW an overview of their plan to cut down, hundreds and hundreds of trees in the right of way, and then to spray them with triclopyr, which is a herbicide that is known to travel easily through soil and into water and to be harmful to aquatic life. So we had a bit of a pushback in a meeting with them, headed by Lisa Shanahan, who's our common counselor, who is doing such a great job on environmental issues, and the tree advisory committee, and they agreed to not use the triclopyr. So that was a tiny victory there.
Good job.
Still cutting the trees down, but at least they're not going to cover the ground with that pesticide.
Are they going to use another pesticide, another herbicide?
No, they're not going to use a pesticide. And then there's a new pesticide ordinance cooking in the ordinance committee for the city. I think the city of Newark doesn't use a lot of pesticides. So But just to codify it would protect us from places like Eversource coming in. So I think that's what's in the process.
But there's a preemption problem in the state of Connecticut. They don't let towns have more regulation on pesticide use than they allow.
For private property, but the city can do what it wants on city
Sure.
property.
That's
It's-
right, that's right. Anyway, very good. Good to hear.
Jeff wants to, Joe?
Joe,
Go ahead, Jeff.
Louise, did Eversource agree that the pesticide is damaging to the environment? Why did they withdraw the proposal, or why did they agree not to use it?
So I don't know, the meeting that I kept alerting you guys to was canceled. So I never talked to them directly. What ended up happening is Chris Torrey talked to them and they agreed to not use any pesticides. And I don't know if that's just for this tree cutting, which is why we're following up with this ordinance, I think, for further protection. I don't know the answer to that. Sorry.
It'd be interesting to know if they've acknowledged that it's a harmful practice, then that's different than if they just said, well, okay, we won't do it.
They just
because
caved. I mean, they've gotten
too
pushback
long
from
in the
other
future.
towns. I know they granted Weston a moratorium while Weston's doing some water quality testing of their groundwater for some of these pesticides. So they're hearing from a lot of towns.
Chris, if they apply pesticide or herbicides like that, do they need a permit of some sort from DEEP?
I'm not sure, Jeff.
Even if they do, it's a paper permit that goes in a box that no one ever
No.
sees unless you have a FOIA.
I'm sure it would have to be applied by a licensed applicator, but I don't really know
Licensed app.
the details of what needs a permit and doesn't.
No, you're right, Chris and Jeff. They would have to go through the pesticide unit of DEEP and be monitored.
Except that there's no actual monitoring involved.
It would be nice to know whether they did acknowledge. I can't imagine that they would, that it's harmful, because they'd want to reserve the right to use it,
Yeah,
in-
I'm sure they didn't acknowledge that, but I can ask that question. I'll try to find out, Jeff.
Right.
Well, Jeff and Louise, just for the record, when we got involved, I'm on the board of the Aspetuck Land Trust, and when we were trying to get rid of Phragmites, DEEP actually sprayed the Phragmites. And then they also mowed, and what they were trying to do was make sure as little came back as was possible. And I bet in the marsh that we targeted, there was a 90% success rate. And the amazing thing was, after the Phragmites was gone, the amount of fiddler crabs that came back, and because the fiddler crabs that were there, you also had the herons and the egrets that were there happily feeding on the fiddler crabs that were there. And I can dig up the information on what pesticides and how they applied it, but we did it in
I'm sure they
coordination.
use glyphosate.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
did.
what people use on frag. Yeah.
There's a formula called rodeo. which is
Rodeo. Yeah.
licensed for using in the water, near water.
We're doing it pesticide free over at Woodward Park. If anybody wants to come see our little mini restoration project, we've cut and tarped the Phragmites for a year and a half, and we have actually planted back the Spartina grass, and lots of the native shrubs are coming in. So we're doing a little project there. If anybody wants to tour, let me know.
Thank you.
That's great, Louise. Absolutely.
That's good work, Louise, to deal with Eversource in that way, or to accomplish that.
I think it was a mini victory. They're still cutting all the trees down.
Well, it's not. It's if anything else, it makes them think that they just can't come in and do what they want to do because it's quick, down, and dirty, and they have to think more about it. But the other thing it does is it puts a lot of the homeowners on alert that this could happen if things are not taken care of. And especially properties that are along streams and rivers, it becomes critical that caution be used and not just allow this type of thing. And the homeowners hopefully will pick up on it and say not here in the future. Okay, number 3, deep permit for Walkbridge. Jeff has already covered that well. Any other comments about the permit or anything that's going on with Walkbridge? I know Jeff and John would be happy to have this, and Pete and Steve would be happy to have this move on, but I think it's going to be another year of watching our backs on this. Okay, if there's no other things under new business, we're up for public comment. Is there anybody out there that wishes to make a public comment? Bill, do we have anybody out there? You're muted, Bill.
Sorry, there are a couple of folks out there, but I don't see anybody looking to make a comment.
Okay, excellent.
I-
Then the
I'm-
next-
They have their hands raised.
They did? Oh, I don't see that.
Oh, it's in the participants list, the attendees, I guess. I don't know why it's not showing up for you guys. If you go to the
If you-
down at,
If you click on attendees, you can see it.
yeah. Click on participants and then click on attendees.
But do you want me to allow the person to talk?
Yes, well, it's public comment, so if they choose to do so, yes.
Can you hear me? This is Linnell Jones.
We hear you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for public comment. All I want to say is after getting the notice last year from my homeowners association that this committee, the Mayor's Clean Water Committee, confirmed to Wilson Point Property Owners Association that no permit was necessary for the drainage work they did on Nathan Hale Drive, I felt I needed to reframe my concerns, hence my new presentation. Thank you, Bill, for sharing it with everyone. I didn't want to fill up everyone's mailbox with it. And if anyone is interested in seeing the Wilson Point communication, Joe has it. Again, thank you. That's all I have to say. I appreciate all the work you do. And I share in your frustration when people don't listen to 7 years of the work you guys have done.
Okay, Linnell, I don't have any recent communication from Wilson Point Association.
I'll send you again, or I'll send it to you and to Bill so you can share with the committee the communication I'm talking about,
Okay,
where they say, we were right, Miss Jones was wrong.
well, in essence, every agency that we connected with said that they were in the right. That goes to Deep. That also goes to Alexis Chirichetti here in town. So they are, as far as we are aware of,
Joe,
in the
excuse
right.
me for interrupting. I shared, no one has ever seen any plans. My May presentation includes email from Tom Closter, who never saw any plans. I've included public education from Planning and Zoning, City of Norwalk, that says if no permit is required, plans are required to be stamped, no permit required. So perhaps it's possible that what was given as the scope of the work wasn't actually the work. I appreciate I'm blowing the whistle, but I think I'm doing it for the right reasons. There's nothing in this for me. I would like to see a pet waste policy at Wilson Point. Thank you.
We will take that under advisement, Linnell. I don't know what you're hoping to achieve with this. We've addressed it with every agency we can possibly address it with. And going beyond that, I don't know what we possibly can do. And I know from past experience, when people have erred and done something they should not have done, correcting it often caused more damage than what was done for the right, what they thought were the right reasons. So you can keep pushing this and you can keep pushing it with us, but I don't know where it's gonna go. I really don't.
Yeah, Joe, just
Yeah.
as a point of information, at the Harbor Commission, we reviewed a set of plans, and I think it was back in 2015. And I think what Linnell was addressing was something that happened afterwards.
Yes,
17 or 18, 19.
yes.
So I don't understand, how can you and the city feel that that they had to go through the Harbor Commission to get a deep referral? And I don't know any of those properties that are not within our bounds overall, in terms of for drainage and runoff and the like. So how can you do in 2015 recognize that you need it, and then a couple of years later say you don't?
What,
And
what,
saying you don't, as what Linnell is pointing out, meant that they had a conversation with someone and someone led them to believe that they didn't. But procedurally, they needed to submit a set of plans that was stamped, no, you don't. And that doesn't exist from what she's saying. And I'm not attesting to what they have in terms of paperwork. But it cannot be arbitrary when someone is looking to do work, whether it's tie into a system or a drainage area. It can't be arbitrary. It needs to be addressed and
John,
procedure followed.
Jeff?
Yeah, I'll make a couple of comments on this, but not with respect to any particular dilution problem. But when we looked at this a year ago and we did research, and the issue is a statewide issue that we saw, not specific just to Wilson Point, but that private roads, stormwater systems proposed in private roads and neighborhoods are not regulated. There's no regulation of them from the state. So we talked about this. I talked about it with the stormwater coordinator in Stamford, and he described it as a hole in the donut. So not picking on any particular group. And we also talked about it with the soundkeeper. But it's recognized that they're not regulated because the MS4 permit doesn't cover it, and there is no other state permit that covers it. So our thought was, should there be? And is this a topic? We're not talking about any specific area now, but just in general. Is that a topic that should be addressed on a statewide level, perhaps through legislation? But we got off of that topic, and we haven't discussed it since then.
Yeah, what we did do is we did make recommendations to the Common Council and to the mayor. And that was in writing. That went out with all the recommendations that we had. And that's the only jurisdiction that we have. That's all we can do.
Well, we could talk to state legislators and the DEP and see if they think that there is a need for some sort of new state legislation that would bring the private areas into a permitting program. We haven't done that. I mean, we talked about it. All we did is talk about it with the soundkeeper, and he thought it was going to be a tough sell because there would be pushback against it. But it's still, the issue is still the same. They're not regulated. That's the issue.
One thing I just wanted to bring attention to is MS4 was amended in 2017. And I'm not a lawyer, but in reading the amendments, I think that this may not be. It may be a moot point. In other words, they are regulated. So I just bring to all of your attention, take a look at the MS4 in its entirety. I'm not sure, but it does appear that it is covered. But again, it's something that it would be very good to have a discussion about it.
Well, one thing, listen, if you want to do drainage in your property, you have to take a permit out for it. You have to set drawings and everything else. If they're doing changes, they should submit drawings and everything else, just like every other private owner.
I don't understand.
That's why I don't understand this coming this way.
Yeah, I think I can clarify. I hesitate to talk about this because we've reviewed it extensively and found no violations. But there is a stormwater permit. There is a stormwater general permit which Deep holds, in which this particular action, these two actions at Wilson Point were found to be in compliance with fully. You're talking about MS4 is an ongoing drainage from runoff from developed areas. That's a whole nother character, but the stormwater permits were complied with. So Jeff, your statement is not correct.
I'll go back and look, because we had a long discussion about this, and I'll stand corrected if I am, but we talked about this in other towns, and I'm.
Well,
Again,
you're talking about the
nothing-
MS4, Jeff, and you're correct that these are not regulated under MS4. I don't know about Diane's statement that it's changed, but the stormwater general permit, which Deep holds, which people who do excavations over an acre need to register for.
Yes,
All the proper inspections were obtained with this, filings were obtained with the city of Norwalk.
if it affects over an acre, that's it. There's a size requirement.
Mhm.
But we clearly talked about, there are certain actions that are not covered. But not to belabor the point, we'll go back and look at what we talked about before. Yeah, you're right, over an acre.
We have another attendee with a hand up as well, so just so FYI.
Okay,
Excuse me, I have to leave. I'll see you guys at the harbor, at the Shellfish meeting.
Okay,
Okay.
Pete. See you later.
and who's next? Yes,
I think Elsa.
Yeah, hi, I'm Elsa Obachowski. I just wanted to say hello. I'm currently the chair of the Board of Commissioners of the First Taxing District, and of course, we deal with water, so we're interested in water as it's coming into the city, and you're interested in water as it's going out. So I attended your meetings in person for a while before COVID, and I'm just happy to be here and listen again, so thank you.
we're happy to have you on board.
There's another public comment. So if we can allow that person to speak, please.
Absolutely.
Mitch, go ahead.
Sorry,
Mitch, can you hear us?
can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yes,
we can hear you.
Thank you. Of course, thank you all for everything you guys do. I just did want to clarify a couple of statements that were made. You know, there's some question of why was there a permit taken in 2015 and not now? 2015 was not a drainage permit. We raised a road. If you look at the Harbor Commission's letter to Deep recommending approval of the permit, it talks about the road raising project, right? This is a road that had to be raised because it was going underwater at high tide. Okay, there was ancillary drainage associated with that. It was not a drainage project. Okay, so I think that's really important for all to realize and recognize. The second thing is, and again, I thank everybody, you know, for acknowledging that after some pretty extensive testing, there's really been nothing found that's emanating from Wilson Point. We will continue to assist in any way, shape, or form possible, you know, in identifying any, you know, new things that come up. And of course, we'll continue to assist Harbor Watch in the city, you know, that's looking at other storm drainage issues in the area. And this is kind of the important part, right? As you guys talk about issues within septic systems within Wilson Point, what we've learned, as a result of, all the questions being asked and really educating ourselves on the issue, is that there's some pretty significant stormwater that runs off into the marshlands, which then dumps into Wilson Cove, right? And, it's a stormwater system. So any septic system that is within that stormwater area that's dumping into that upper part of the harbor, the upper marsh at the corner of Trolley and Martin Luther King, becomes discharged into Wilson Cove, right? And there's been some pretty significant testing. It's ongoing. It's down for the season, right? Because it is seasonal. But there is an intermittent issue that is coming from up there, from two different systems. One I believe is the state of Connecticut, the other's from the city of Norwalk. But we're going to continue to work with everybody and try and find, whatever those root causes are. And I also do think, and I've said this many times, that a real good public awareness campaign is necessary. What we do in our little community of 80 homes is one thing, but the entire city of Norwalk drains into our waters, right? So some sort of a public awareness campaign that what you put on your lawn, what you don't pick up after your dog, how you treat your own septic systems when you have it, will affect the water quality. Even if you live as far away as I-95, that storm drain in front of your house is dumping into Wilson Cove, right? And so that's an important thing to really keep in mind, as you look at the various issues. So again, I want to say thank you guys for all the work you do. Thank you for the clarification statements, that were made earlier tonight, and keep up the great work. Thanks.
Thank you, Mitch. Appreciate it. Okay, we're getting near Cinderella time here. I hope you all read the minutes from 1/6/22. Any additions, any comments, any changes? Then can I have a motion to accept the minutes? Diane? Can I have a second? Okay, I think it's John and Steve both seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, opposed? I don't hear anything. Excellent. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Steve and John seconded it. All in favor? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you and hopefully see you next month. Stay well and healthy.
Thank you. Have a good night.